Hey everybody, Dr. G here. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and body language expert, and today we're going to be analyzing the body language of Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt. Ruby Franke is best known for her former family vlog, 8 Passengers. Jodi Hildebrandt is a therapist and also the business partner of Franke. They work together on ConneXions. ConneXions provides coaching from others as well as parenting advice. They've both since been accused of felony child abuse. What we're going to be looking at today is them in court as well as some of their ConneXions videos. Couple of things before we get started. One, I've never met either one of them. This is not a psychological evaluation. These are just my opinions based on their body language. I also want you to keep in mind that nothing I'm saying should be used to suggest, to prove their guilt nor their innocence. This is all just my opinions. Last thing before we get started, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. What we're looking at first is their court appearance. Now, if you look at Franke right here, she's sitting very still. There might be some anger. If you look at her brow, it looks like right here that there might be a little bit of anger on her face. It's hard to say, but she is very expressionless and very, very still. Now, I don't want to overinterpret this body language because maybe it changed throughout the rest of the hearing. We didn't see the rest of the hearing, and as far as I know, that footage is not available, so I can't analyze that. What we're not seeing is we don't see a lot of fear or anxiety right there. So it's very interesting how still and stern she appears to be right there. Now let's juxtapose that with Jodi Hildebrandt. Now Jodi Hildebrandt immediately looks very different. She looks a lot more concerned, a lot more anxious. You see a lot more stress on her face. Let's let this play through for a second and then we'll go over it. So if you look, she's breathing really hard throughout this, right? She is someone who appears to be a lot more anxious than Ruby Franke. Once again, we're just getting little clips of this. Maybe they flip-flopped. Maybe they changed a lot throughout the court appearance. But from what we're seeing, Ruby Franke looks a lot more stern, a lot more still, whereas Jodi Hildebrandt looks very scared right now. This looks like a lot of fear. You can see her eyebrows are positioned in a way that suggests sadness. And as you can tell, the motion that she has, the look on her face, overall, she is showing a lot of fear and anxiety, which contrasted with Ruby Franke looks quite different. I'm gonna let this play through and then we're gonna watch it one more time. So now we're going to watch some of the ConneXions videos and we're going to compare two of them. And what we're going to see is very, very interesting. This one is from about 1.5 years ago. I want you to watch their energy and the type of energy they give off on this. And then we're going to watch some clips and we're going to jump to the next video. But I just want you to get a good feel for what they're like.
It's March 11th, 2022. And on March 12th, the whole world shut down 2 years ago. And I said, I'm triggered. I'm feeling poked. I'm feeling poked. So.
All right. So you can see on Ruby Franke's face, she's smiling. That looks like a real smile. Her eyes have wrinkles next to it. She's probably very good at faking that. Maybe she's actually feeling happy right now. But that is what we see when somebody is actually feeling happy. We see them wrinkle their eyes. And the more we practice that, the better we get at it. So that doesn't mean she necessarily feels that way at that time, but she does appear that way. Once again, this is important for what's coming next.
Life, and we'll show you where triggers come in, or the word I'm poked comes in. The first thing that goes on in your world.
We call this steepling. And basically what it is it's a way of people saying, I am an expert. You need to listen to me. You see people do this a lot. This is not unique to Jodi Hildebrandt, but doing this can be a way to try to get your listeners to pay attention to what you're saying and to seem like an expert on exactly what you're saying right there.
Like when you wake up in the morning, your first experience of being conscious, you see the fan twirling, or you open your eyes and you're aware that your feet are cold.
Or you remember that you're given the presentation, or Christmas morning and you realize Santa Claus has come.
There you go.
Or didn't come.
Now this is interesting. So Jodi Hildebrandt's talking about the first thing you notice when you wake up, like looking at a fan, something like that. And Ruby Franke turns it into talking about Santa Claus not coming. Now, that's really interesting. I mean, it goes to show where her mindset is about something like this. And this is something that seems to bring them great joy. Let's keep watching.
Okay, more on that.
They seem so amused at the idea of Santa Claus not coming that somehow her trying to talk about what sounds like mindfulness or awareness gets turned into something that would be, Not such a great experience for kids. I think that's really interesting that they somehow brought that up.
Your feet are cold.
And emotional triggers, or when I'm feeling poked, is the same thing. Your basement is freezing cold. Every time I go.
All right, so this is actually Franke complaining in a very real way. So this whole video is about being triggered and how you have to own your triggers and that other people have no responsibility to treat you well or to do anything, that you're 100% responsible for anything that you feel. Now watch this. This is interesting.
I go down into your basement. I'm freezing cold. And I could.
Now you look, her body's open. She's very energetic. She really feels a lot about this. She talks about how freezing cold her basement is. This actually really seems to bother Ruby Franke.
I could make you responsible for that and say, you need to keep your basement warm. I don't like coming to your house, so you need to adjust.
Now look how she's saying it. She's being very direct. She's looking her in the eye. She's telling her what she actually wants. I want you to keep your basement warmer. She is actually directly saying it, but they're having to mask it in this thing because she's supposed to be doing literally the opposite of what she's doing right now.
Your temperature.
Now watch Jodi Hildebrandt's mouth when she says this.
You're responsible for that and say, you need to keep your basement warm. I don't like coming to your house, so you need to adjust.
All right. You see that look right there? That's a look of disgust. She feels disgusted at Ruby Franke right now based on what I'm seeing. She also licked her lips when she was talking. She was closing her eyes. This is stressing her out. Jodi Hildebrandt is not enjoying this interaction at all.
Your temperature.
Yeah, and I could completely be in distortion and assume that there's truth in what she just said, which is and
when she said, and assume there's truth in what she said, watch her eyes right here.
Yeah, and I could completely be in distortion and assume that there's truth in what
All right, so she closed her eyes when she said there's truth in what she said, probably because she knows there's truth in it. We close our eyes when we hear or see things that we don't like. It's a way to sort of block thoughts in a sense. And she's very much doing that right now with Ruby Franke because Ruby Franke is confronting her in a way that's totally passive-aggressive, totally backwards because it's the opposite of what they're trying to do. And they're having a real interaction right here.
she just said, which is I'm responsible for her. When the reality is I'm never responsible for her.
All right, she said, I'm never responsible for her. Ruby Franke closes her eyes for a second. She doesn't like this. That doesn't feel good to her, for her to say, I'm never responsible for her.
Never. Even if she were two, I'm not responsible for how she chooses to perceive and then how she chooses to feel. This is why.
It's interesting. She's talking about 2-year-olds as though 2-year-olds make a real thoughtful choice about how they react to things. We're going to keep listening, and it'll become clear why what she's saying is problematic.
Us as parents get so frustrated with our children. We want them to perceive a certain way, don't we? We want our kids.
Now that look right there on Ruby Franke's face, that's what we typically associate with contempt. It's going to turn into laughter, but I do wonder if there's contemptuous feelings when she talks about that they want their kids to feel a certain way. Now we're going to be watching a ConneXions video from July of this year. I want you to look at the difference in energy, particularly from Jodi Hildebrandt. Let's just jump right in.
Yeah, so you're talking about something that can be seen, this aggression that is really overt versus a passive, covert aggression that might be a little trickier.
Now, this is somebody who's been a year and a half on camera. She's been doing this a lot longer now. And it's not like that's when they just started either. But look at the difference in comfort level. Look at the way that Jodi Hildebrandt is blinking, the way that she is licking her lips, the way that she looks uncomfortable. She looks tense. This is interesting. Watch this again.
Yeah, so you're talking about something that can be seen, this aggression that is really overt versus a passive, covert aggression that might be a little trickier to see.
Right.
So what we're looking at, to me, and this is just my opinion, this looks like somebody who has a lot more stress at this time than March of last year when the other video was filmed. So it makes me wonder what on earth is going on that is feeling so intense to her.
That I'm even there. I don't even know possibly that I'm showing up or choosing.
So if you look, her shoulders are more tense, her hands are interlocked, her face doesn't have the same level of looseness that it did before. She looks a lot more serious, a lot more tense. Look at Ruby Franke as well. She's smiling a lot less. Her brow looks a lot more still. She just seems a lot more intense. They both seem a lot more intense in this video than the last one. At least that's my opinion.
Okay, where's my responsibility and where's someone else's responsibility? Okay, where's my responsibility and versus your responsibility?
Now, watch Jodi Hildebrandt's hands. She's flicking her ring. She's moving her fingers. Like, she looks very uncomfortable in this video to me. Watch this part again. Just watch her hands.
Your responsibility.
So we're going to give you some examples of some people you may know.
Look how closed off the body language is from both of them. In the last video, their hands were open. They were open. There's something going on here, in my opinion, that is really making them tense and is really making them shut off. The energy feels so different to me in this video relative to the last one.
So he's looking at his history from an objective point of view, and he has...
Now, I skipped about 10 minutes in just to watch a little bit more. Jodi Hildebrandt keeps doing this blinking thing. It's really fascinating to me that she's becoming more stressed on camera rather than less.
someone who loves him standing next to him, literally pointing out his victim and saying, Scrooge, that's not you. Look at the choice you made, and you can change. You can decide. You don't.
Ruby Franke's energy is a lot more muted as well. In the last video, she smiles a lot. Now, I only showed clips, but if you watch the whole thing, she smiles a lot more. She's a lot bigger. She seems a lot more energetic. So the energy of both of them is dramatically lower on this video than it was from a year before. Hopefully, watching this video has helped you better understand the energy difference between their old video and their most recent one. I think it's very interesting and very telling. Now we're going to watch a video on anger.
I've shared with Ruby numerous times that anger is actually one of my most favorite emotions.
Now, once again, she's doing the steepling. She wants to come across as an expert. That's very important to her. This is a powerful way to do that. But when she's talking about anger being her favorite emotion, that is a genuine look of happiness right there. And she said it, not me. So these are words from her mouth. We're going to watch a little bit more. But look at the joy on her face after she talks about anger being her favorite emotion. Let's go back, watch that again, and then we'll keep going.
I've shared with Ruby numerous times that anger is actually one of my most favorite emotions.
She shared with her numerous times. This is a point she's felt the need to make over and over again. It's fascinating.
When I first started getting to know you, she's like, anger is my favorite emotion. I'm like, I know what I'm dealing with here. What do I need to know? Teach me about anger.
Yes.
So this seems to actually be a very genuine response from Ruby Franke. When we impersonate ourselves and we think about how we reacted to something and we behave a certain way, that usually taps very much into how we feel about it or how we felt about it. So seeing her reaction, I think that she was genuinely concerned when she first said that anger is her favorite emotion. Watch her do this again.
Anger is my favorite emotion. I'm like,
now that is actually a genuine look of fear. The corners of our mouth go down, our eyebrows go up. That is what we look like when we're afraid. So she may have had a moment where that actually concerned her. Jodi Hildebrandt, on the other hand, right here, looks very pleased with this story.
I know what I'm dealing with here. What do I need to know? With this energy that is pinpointed and
It's got to be
direct.
pinpointed in
So right now, Ruby Franke is trying to explain how to use anger. And this is interesting to watch how she looks to Jodi to get an idea of whether or not what she's saying is right. Watch this.
truth,
Yes.
not pinpointed and I want to hurt you.
Yeah. In retaliation.
Yeah.
That would be distorted anger.
See, that body language, that would be, as she's pointing at her and looking at her, distorted anger. She's trying to make sure that she's using the right terms, that she has the right ideas. She looks a little bit lost right there. So it's interesting that Ruby really does seem to be deferring to Jodi for these concepts. She thinks of these as Jodi's concepts, I imagine, because I assume that she's the one that came up with these. Most of them were pretty weird, to be honest with you. But let's go back and watch this again.
And
It's got to be
direct.
pinpointed in truth,
Yes.
not pinpointed and I want to hurt you.
Yeah. In retaliation.
Yeah.
That would be distorted anger.
Distorted. Absolutely.
It is totally appropriate and necessary to teach love to a child from the day they're born. Well, love can only exist if there's an opposite. Love can only exist if there is a counterfeit, and that is distortion.
I'm only showing this clip because There's so many moments like this where they will say something that makes absolutely no sense. Like if you really listen to what they're saying, like it's just totally incoherent. Watching these is starting to take its toll on my mental health. Hopefully this video helps you better understand some of their body language. Once again, this is not meant to prove their innocence or guilt or anything like that, or to help people make judgments about those things. That's not the goal of this at all. The goal is to help you better understand some of their body language during these videos. There's a lot of them, and there's a lot to say. So if people are interested in this, I can do more. Please let me know in the comments below if there's other things about this that you'd like me to cover. But before we wrap things up, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, thanks for watching.